Maybe you were standing in a parking lot when it happened, or sitting in a waiting room, or you were at home when the vet called. And in that one moment, something inside you went completely quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful, the kind of quiet that feels like the world just removed something from it. Something that was breathing this morning, something that knew your name, something that was waiting for you to come home. And then the people around you said, "Get over it. It was just a dog." And something in you broke twice. Once when you lost them, and once when you realized the world did not think that loss was real. Today, we are going to talk about something that psychology has studied, but society has never fully accepted. We're going to talk about why some people grieve their pet more deeply than they grieve a human being. Why that grief is not weakness. Why it is not strange. Why it is not something you need to apologize for, or explain away, or hide in a room where no one can see you crying into a collar that still smells like them. We're going to talk about what you actually lost, because it was not just an animal. And the sooner we understand that, the sooner we understand why this kind of pain sits so deep that nothing reaches it. Let us begin with the word that changed everything. In 1989, a psychologist named Kenneth Doka introduced a concept that described exactly what you felt when someone told you to get over it. He called it disenfranchised grief. It is a specific kind of loss, not the kind where people bring you food and sit with you and ask how you were doing weeks later. It is the kind of loss that society decides is not important enough to grieve. The kind of loss where you are expected to function, to go back to work, to stop mentioning it, to move on. Pet loss is one of the most common forms of disenfranchised grief in the modern world, and yet it destroys people. Not because they are weak, not because they are dramatic, but because the bond that was broken was one of the most chemically powerful bonds a human brain can form. And nobody warned them. Nobody told them that loving an animal this much would one day cost this much. Here is what was happening inside your body every single day without you knowing it. Every time your dog looked at you, every time your cat curled up against you, every time your pet heard your keys in the door and came running, your brain was releasing oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical that bonds a mother to her newborn child in the first minutes of life, the same chemical that makes you feel seen and safe and wanted. Your brain was producing this chemical in response to your pet every single day, multiple times a day, for years. This was not a metaphor. This was not you being silly or overdramatic. This was your neurological reality. Your brain had formed a dependency on that bond, not in a harmful way, in the most natural way a brain can. It had learned that this creature equals safety. This creature equals warmth. This creature equals the feeling of being loved without conditions. And then, that creature was gone. And your brain went into withdrawal. Literal chemical withdrawal from a bond it had been building for years. This is why you could not eat. This is why you could not sleep in the bed, because the bed felt wrong. This is why you kept looking at the door, waiting for something to come through it that never would. This was not irrationality. This was your brain searching for something it had relied on, something it did not know how to stop expecting.
But the chemistry is only part of the answer. To understand why this grief runs so deep, we have to understand what a pet actually is in a person's life. Because when you ask someone who is grieving an animal why they are so devastated, they will often struggle to explain it in words. They will say things like, "He was my whole world," or "She understood me better than anyone," or "I do not know what to do with myself now." And people who have not experienced it will nod politely and think it is just an animal. But here is what they do not see. Your pet
Your pet was your routine.
Think about this. From the moment you woke up in the morning, your day was organized around them. You got up to feed them, you timed your schedule around their walks, you came home at a certain hour because they needed you. You fell asleep with them nearby. Every single day had a shape, a structure, a rhythm, and that rhythm was built around another living thing. When they leave, the routine collapses, and a collapsed routine is not a small thing. Psychologists know that daily routine is one of the primary mechanisms through which humans regulate their mental and emotional state. When the structure falls apart, the nervous system does not know what to do with itself. You wake up and there is nothing that needs you. You come home and the house is just a house. You go to bed and the silence has a texture it never had before.
You are not just missing an animal. You are missing the architecture of your own days. And there is something else, something that is harder to name, but that every pet owner who has lost one will recognize the moment they hear it. Your pet was your witness. Think about what that means. Your pet was present for the moments you did not show anyone else. The 2 a.m. crying when you could not explain why you were sad. The days you stayed in bed because the world felt too heavy. The arguments you had with yourself. The embarrassing habits. The moments of complete emotional collapse that you would never let another human see.
Your pet saw all of it and stayed. They did not leave. They did not judge. They did not tell someone else. They did not love you less. They pressed against you in the dark, and they stayed. And over years, this creates something that psychologists call a secure attachment, a relationship where you can be completely unguarded, completely exposed, without fear. Most humans never find this with another human being. Most people spend their entire lives performing some version of themselves that is curated for whoever is in the room. With their pet, there was no performance. There was just them, their real, unfiltered, unguarded self. When the pet goes, the witness goes. And suddenly, the version of you that only existed in that relationship, the most honest version of you, has nowhere left to go. This is why the grief is so disorienting. It is not just the loss of an animal. It is the loss of the only relationship where you were completely yourself. Now, let us talk about the comparison, because this is where people get uncomfortable. Why do some people grieve their pet more than they grieve a human? Is that not wrong? Is that not a sign that something is broken in that person? No. And here is why. Grief is not a measure of how much something was worth. Grief is a measure of how deeply something was woven into your life. And for many people, especially people who've experienced rejection, abandonment, or emotional unavailability from the humans in their lives, the pet is woven deeper than any human being. Think about what a pet offers that humans often cannot.
A pet never had a bad day that they took out on you. A pet never withdrew their love as punishment. A pet never made you feel like you had to earn their presence. A pet never left because they were tired of you or because they found someone better or because you said the wrong thing at the wrong moment. A pet woke up every single morning and chose you without condition, without negotiation, without memory of yesterday's mistakes. For people who grew up in homes where love was conditional, where affection had to be earned, where the adults around them were emotionally inconsistent, the pet became something that those humans never were. Safe, constant, uncomplicated. So when that pet dies, they are not just losing an animal. They are losing the only relationship in their life that ever made them feel completely safe. And sometimes
They are losing more than any human relationship ever gave them. That is not broken. That is honest.
Pauline Boss, a family therapist who spent decades studying loss, introduced a concept called ambiguous loss. It describes losses that do not fit into the clean categories that society has created for grief. Pet loss is one of the most profound examples of ambiguous loss, because what you are losing is not just a physical creature. You are losing an identity. You are their parent, their person, the one they waited for, the one who knew their habits, their fears, their favorite spots, the way they slept, the sounds they made. That identity does not have a place to go when they are gone. You are still their person, but there is no one left to be a person for. This is why people who lose pets often describe feeling a loss of purpose, not just sadness, a structural emptiness, a question that sounds like, who am I now if I am not taking care of them?
And society has no ritual for this. When a human dies, there is a funeral, there are condolence cards, there is bereavement leave. There is a social script that tells everyone around the grieving person, this matters. We acknowledge this. Take your time. When a pet dies, you are expected to be back at work on Monday. You're expected to stop mentioning it after a week. You're expected to eventually get another one, as if the love was transferable, as if a new animal would simply fill the shape of the one that left. And so the person is left alone with a grief that is as real as any grief they have ever felt, but surrounded by a world that is telling them their grief is not real enough to deserve space. This is what makes it so devastating. Not just the loss, the isolation of the loss.
There is something that happens in the days after a pet dies that people rarely talk about. The house does not just feel empty. It feels wrong. It feels like the physics of the space have changed. Every corner has a memory attached to it. The spot by the window where they slept, the particular way the water bowl sat on the floor, the sound of their breathing in the dark that you did not realize you were listening for until you could no longer hear it. These are not small things. These are the textures of a shared life. And when they are gone, the house becomes a museum of a relationship that no longer exists. And you have to live in that museum every single day while the rest of the world tells you to move on. The people who grieve their pets most deeply are often the people who loved most honestly. They are the ones who did not hold back, who let themselves be completely attached, who allowed this creature full access to their heart without reservation. In a world that teaches people to be guarded, to protect themselves, to not love too much, these are the people who loved anyway. And yes, that love costs something enormous when it ends. But that cost is the proof of the love. You cannot grieve deeply what you did not love deeply. The depth of your grief is the exact measurement of the depth of your bond. And that bond, no matter what anyone tells you, was real. If you are someone who has lost a pet, and you are still not over it, months later, years later, I want to say something directly to you.
You are not weak. You are not overdramatic. You are not broken. You are a person who loved something completely. And complete love leaves a complete wound when it is gone. The size of your grief is not a problem to be solved. It is a testament to a relationship that mattered, that was real, that changed you, that made your daily life something worth living in. The world may not give you a funeral. It may not give you bereavement leave. It may not sit with you in your kitchen 3 weeks later and ask how you were doing. But the grief is still valid. Your pain is still real. And the relationship that caused it was as real as any relationship you will ever have in your life.
Because at the end of everything, what we are really talking about is not pets and humans and which loss is greater. What we are really talking about is the need to be loved without conditions. The need to have someone in your life who stays, who chooses you every morning, who is there in the dark, who never leaves because you are too much or not enough. And if the only place you ever found that was in the eyes of an animal who could not speak your language, but somehow always understood you, then that animal was not just a pet. That animal was one of the great loves of your life, and you are allowed to grieve them like it.